Welcome to the Center of Light Radio with spiritual teacher, intuitive, musician, composer, and best-selling author of The Divine Principle, Anchoring Heaven on Earth, your host, Keith Anthony Blanchard.
Coast to coast, pole to pole, all around the world on the internet, and thank you, technology. I'm able to come at you live from a little bitty old guest house in Memphis, Tennessee. This is Keith Anthony Blanchard, and you are listening to Center of Light Radio, Center of Divine Unfoldment and Reinforcement, the superhighway to knowledge for that which matters most. That would be you. You can insert yourself right there. The definition would be your picture smiling right there. Power up, y'all. It's Monday. Beginning of the week starts off here and now for your blissful ride as a spiritual astronaut as we explore the inner planes of consciousness and creation. Strap in all my brothers and sisters. Here we go. I have a fantastic program for you tonight. I've been waiting for weeks to have this interview with my awesome guest. First, a couple of adverts real quick. Very soon, I'm going to be launching my new lifelong program. Lifelong meaning it's been many years in coming. That's for sure. It's RPM, Recognize, Plug In, and Manifest. Recognize, plug in, and manifest your life. I will hand you the powerful tools that I've been using for years to become a bestseller, to become a musician by trade full time, and all these wonderful attributes that I'm blessed to say that I have in my life by following these metaphysical principles that someone introduced into my life some years ago, saying, Keith, I don't expect you to believe a darn thing I'm telling you. Apply them and watch what happens. That day, that week, that month, that year, my life began to curve within itself and become this explosion of amazing miracles and unfoldment. And I'm grateful, and I want to hand that to you. Heads up real soon, RPM, Recognize, Plug In, and Manifest is coming your way. When you go to centeroflightradio.com, look at the bottom right-hand corner. You will see a subscription form. I will not send you junk. Put your email in there. I will send you things that I'm passionate about researching and that bring bliss and empowerment to my heart. And I want to extend that to you. And while you are at centeroflightradio.com, make sure you check out the Do What You Love Forever course. $5. It's packed full of powerful stuff, and everything is digital downloads. So you get everything immediately. $5. The movie in it, Do What You Love, Path to Passionate Living, the movie about my life made by Blue Cast Productions out of New York, is worth $5 alone. I'm doing this. Why? Because I can, and life is rich, life is fun, life is beautiful. And I like empowering people. It brings a joy to my heart. It brings bliss to my mind. That's what I am. That's my gig, and that's what I'll be as long as I am alive and breathing breath in this body. To call into the show today, which I suggest if you have questions, I have a fantastic guest. Again, I say, dial 888-919-2355. That's 888-919-2355. Remember, always remember, if you are not at home or by your computer or a computer and you want to hear your favorite show, hopefully that's Center of Light Radio, you can go to the App Store on your phone and download the Inception Radio Network app. It's free. Everything is right there in the palm of your hand. You are in full control. You have chat room, listen, live link, news, podcasts, much more. There are many ways to connect to Center of Light Radio and Inception Radio Network. That's for sure. And the chat room is becoming full. Loving it. Now, big drum roll. It's time to get down to Center of Light Radio business. Today on Center of Light Radio, my guest is Mr. Dick Larson, and we will be discussing the emergence of the world teacher and the promise of the future. The world teacher meaning Jesus / Buddha / Christ consciousness / the oversoul known as Maitreya. Let me tell you about Dick Larson. Dick Larson is a counselor with a background in education, business, and communication. In addition to being a guest on radio talk shows nationwide, he has co-hosted a radio program and produced and hosted a series of public access television shows that air around the nation. Mr. Larson served in the United States Air Force, was a special education teacher with Los Angeles School District, then worked as an international corporate business executive for over 20 years. He then became a chemical dependency therapist and is now at a university in Southern California teaching other adults how to do therapy. Creator of the audiotape series Points to Ponder, Larson is a native of Minnesota, where he obtained a degree in sociology and psychology. That adds to the credibility. Wonderful. Before duty in the Air Force ultimately brought him to the Los Angeles area in 1971. Mr. Larson's familiarity with the spiritual side of life comes from facilitating adult Christian Bible studies, from his study of the world's major religions, as well as the ageless wisdom teachings, and participating in meditation groups and teaching meditation for many years. In these difficult times, he is very hopeful about our future and tries to help others see the positive as well. Larson entertains and inspires as he shares his strong conviction that we are now in a very special time of world change, an exciting time, he says, one that marks the beginning of a new era of awareness. I've always said awareness is everything. It'll save your life. It will save your soul. A new era of awareness, which will offer tremendous opportunities for personal growth, enlightenment, and willing cooperation among, I love this, willing cooperation among all men and women around the world. You can find more about Dick Larson at www.share-international.org. Welcome to the Center of Light Radio, Mr. Dick Larson.
Thank you, Keith, for that incredible introduction. I really appreciate the opportunity to be on your show. You know, I really admire how you try to educate people and to help them push the pages open just a little bit further and open themselves up to possibilities, and how you emphasize the positive aspects of life. I think you do a great job.
Thank you kindly, sir. I'm passionate about what I do, as I have no doubt whatsoever that you are as well.
Sure.
If you would, Mr. Larson, tell me, please, how did you come upon information about Benjamin Crimm's work, now your work as well, about the great world teacher, Maitreya?
Yes, thank you. Benjamin Crimm is an artist. He's also a futurist. The old word for futurist is prophet. And although he makes no claims for his own spiritual status or advancement or anything at all, he lives in London, and for 40 years, over 40 years, he's been traveling around the world with no pay, giving out the information that I'm going to be giving out today, on his behalf, because his doctor won't let him travel anymore. He's getting up there in years now, and so you're
the new ambassador.
Well, I'm one of them. There are several. We're volunteers for this organization called Share International, which is about sharing the resources of the world, so that everybody has what they need. Maybe not everything they want, but everything they need, without going communist and all that kind of stuff. But it's called Share International. There's a magazine that's sold in over 40 countries of the world called Share International that gives the latest updates on the world teacher and so on. Well, he came to New York to give a lecture, and then he came to Los Angeles to give a lecture, and then he came to San Francisco to give a lecture every year. For over, like I said, 40 years, he would make the circuits, and then he would visit great cities overseas, Tokyo and so on. And but he lives in London. Well, he came to Los Angeles. I got tipped off by a friend, so I went to hear his lecture, and I'll tell you, I didn't understand. I understood maybe a third of it. The rest of it just went right over my head. But what I heard just fascinated me. It was just real kind of common sense, and it piqued my interest. And so I got his first book, and I read his first book, and that answered questions for me. And it was one of those things where you can't prove it's true. It's like your religion. You can't prove it's true necessarily, but because and it just makes sense to you. Well, that's what happened with his book. It answered questions my religion, I grew up a Lutheran and a Christian all my life, answered questions my religion couldn't answer. And I thought, boy, I got to check this out. So then I started reading more of his books, and I went to more of his lectures and became a volunteer for the Share International. There are about 4,000 of us in the world that volunteer. There aren't very many that do radio like I'm doing. So I really enjoy it. And that's how I got started. It just made sense to me.
Being a Christian, how did this feel to you? You had made a comment. I perfectly understand it. You know when you know. But
Right.
We have a wonderful gift inside of us called intuition. And often for me, there's some things that could be conspiracy theory or not sureness about it. But there's a harmonic that begins to vibrate within a person, and everything about it feels right, beyond language, beyond the conspiracy theory of it or not. There's a truth that begins to pulse within your being when you see such said information, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, intuition. The ageless wisdom, you mentioned that, and it's really, really important that I expand just a second on that. The ageless wisdom is an ancient philosophy. It's not a religion. It's a philosophy that is said to be so old that its basic truths underlie all of the world's major religions. And it's the ageless wisdom that Benjamin Creme has been teaching and talking about around the world for 40 years. Before him, it was a woman named Alice A. Bailey who wrote about 20 books about the ageless wisdom. Benjamin Creme has about 15 books on Amazon that are very reasonably priced, just like all of your things I've noticed, Keith, are very affordable for everybody. That's really important, and bless you for doing it. And so the ageless wisdom is this philosophy, and it made sense to me. The ageless wisdom says intuition comes from the interaction of the mind and the soul. Isn't that interesting? And that's the mind and the soul that create this intuition, which is a way of knowing deep inside, like you said, because something deep inside resonates really, really clearly with you. And that was my reaction to his teaching. By the way, before we get too far into this, I'd like to say something to your listeners, and that is, I want to tell your listeners, please don't believe anything I say. Please. Because that would be blind belief, and I can't recommend blind belief to anybody. But just try to keep an open mind and see if maybe 10 or 20 or 30% of what I have to say makes any sense to you. If it does, I'll be very happy with that. But I'm not here to convince anybody that what I'm saying is true or to cram any information down anybody's throat. I'm just giving out my information. People can do whatever they want with it.
Yeah, I think it's very, very important to be a healthy skeptic, but because to me, the right dose of skepticism creates, believe it, whether you're doing it consciously or not, it leaves an open-ended question, which always will find the answer. And I think it's very healthy to have a file open so that one day, if whatever you've created the file for does manifest, you are somewhat not only prepared, but ahead of the game. So
Absolutely.
where you're not caught broadsided and kind of flat on your butt.
Very well said.
Yes, thank
I
you,
agree.
sir. Let me ask you a question. Why are things today just so chaotic in the world?
Yeah. This is a special time because, and this is an astronomical fact. This is not astrology in the newspapers and magazines for people's entertainment. Our solar system and our planet don't sit still. We move in the cosmos, and that we're surrounded by 12 huge constellations. And we call those constellations the zodiac. And about every 2,250 years or so, if you go to a planetarium, they'll tell you about this. They call it the precession of the equinox. That's what the scientists call it, the astronomers call it. About every 2,250 years, we come into alignment, and we're energetically aligned with one of these great constellations that have tremendous energies. And those energies pour into our planet as part of the planetary evolution. Well, for the last 2,000 years, we have been in alignment with the great constellation Pisces. And every time we come into alignment with one of these constellations, we get a great teacher. 2,000 years ago, we got the teacher for the age of Pisces, the great teacher Jesus, who came to teach the message, God's love. The Buddha came a little bit before that, right around that time actually, to teach the wisdom of God. So Jesus taught the love of God. Jesus taught that in the West, more or less. Buddha in the East taught God's wisdom. Well, for the last 2,000 years, we've been receiving energies from Pisces. The two primary energies are individuality and dedication to an ideal. Individuality, man has come out of the herd in the last 2,000 years. The me generation, we stand up for ourselves now. We've had great leaders over the last 1,000 years. And then dedication to an ideal, of course, is what saved the world. Dedication to the ideal of freedom saved the world from Hitler and his cohorts from total domination by evil forces. And so they have really served their purpose. And now, starting in 1625, the scientists at the planetarium will tell you that we started moving out of the influence of an alignment with Pisces. And in 1675, we started moving into alignment with the next constellation, Aquarius. And when we're in alignment with one of these constellations, we say we are in the age of whatever that constellation is. So we've been in the age of Pisces, and now we're moving into the age of Aquarius. Well, what's happening, to answer your question very directly now, Keith, that I've set the stage, we are receiving energy from Pisces, and we're receiving energy from Aquarius, which is very different energy. Instead of individuality, the two primary energies from Aquarius are synthesis and cooperation. That's where humanity is headed. But when these energies crisscross and are bombarding our planet, it creates total chaos. And that's what we have now. And the biggest problem for humanity is that our spiritual crisis is that we have forgotten who we are. We've forgotten that we're not humans having spiritual experiences, we're spirits having a human experience. And we've forgotten that. And so there's all this chaos right now because all the institutions that we built with Piscean energy, the educational system, the healthcare system, the financial system, the government system, everything we've built with Piscean energy is collapsing. Why? Because Piscean energy is being withdrawn. They can't do anything but collapse. So it looks terrible, but it's the beginning of the new because we're going to use the energies of cooperation and synthesis, man, working together. We're going to go from competition to cooperation. We're going to rebuild those institutions and with those energies, and then they will serve humanity beautifully for the next 2,000 years. But right now, it looks terrible.
Simply put, let me ask you, would you say that the divine ladle is scooping out of the gumbo pot all that which is no longer beneficial to the soup?
Totally. Totally. That's exactly what's happening. And it looks horrible. Look at the Catholic Church. I love your description. Look at the Catholic Church. All of a sudden, we're finding out about all these priests who've been abusing children and so on. And it just looks horrible. But what's happening is it's rising to the top to become visible and enter our awareness so that we can clean it up.
Yes. And I've said this last week, and I say it often. You know, we look out and about. And if you believe the illusion, it can convince you that what's happening in the world is terrible. I agree. I don't like any more than anyone else the things that are happening. Now, the spiritual me steps back and says, wow, it's happening before my eyes. The cleansing process, the Moses process, the Egyptian process, it's all being recognized. So the masses can make different choices. And people say, well, that's, not good for those that are having these horrible things happen to. I can't begin to explain to you why karma plays itself out with certain people and not others. Everyone comes in here to teach a lesson to everybody else.
And to serve each other.
to serve each other. And some people literally, I'm assuming that we all do, choose to come down here to have such dynamics happen in our life, to become actually in a very selfless way to teach others. People often say, we need compassion because we look at third world countries and these children are starving. Have you ever thought that they chose to come here to play that role so we can learn that very compassion?
Well, I would argue, just to be the devil's advocate, that we have created the problem. It wasn't their karma that made them born in a country where they starved to death. We made them starve to death because we didn't share the resources of the planet well enough.
Yeah, I like the idea that we need to take responsibility for humanity. Absolutely. Absolutely.
We've made a terrible mess of this planet, and we've got to look, we can't end war. We can't end starvation. And we haven't anyway. We haven't ended war. We haven't ended starvation, and we're killing the planet. And all of that is affecting humanity. That's the cycle of life. That's the way it works. So if you kill nature, it's going to kill you. I mean, that's how it works. One of the biggest problems right now is nuclear pollution worldwide. Why? Well, because we don't have instruments that are advanced enough to measure the nuclear pollution that's leaking out. We're only aware of 3 levels of physical matter: solid, liquid, and gas. There's a level above gas that's even a higher vibration than gas. And like gas, you can't see it, you can't smell it, you can't touch it, you don't know it's there, but it's there. And that, the ageless wisdom says, that level of physical existence is called etheric physical, like ether is a very high vibration gas. Etheric physical. Well, our instruments, we don't have instruments that can measure that, but the beginning of etheric physical would be people who see auras. They're seeing etheric physical. There are some people that have the beginnings of etheric vision, but most of us don't. Most of us don't. And so etheric physical is causing all these problems. It's the most powerful of all the nuclear radiation, and it's spewing out of all of our nuclear plants, and we don't even know it. My information is that it's causing 2 major problems in humanity. Number 1, it's causing a much higher incidence of autistic children being born. It used to be 1 in every 800. Now it's 1 in 80. And the second thing it's causing is earlier and earlier onset of Alzheimer's. And that's nuclear pollution.
And probably many other hosts of problems that we can't even begin to imagine.
Oh, sure. The etheric physical, by the way, is what we don't understand about our space people. The space brothers and sisters that have been visiting us and helping us for hundreds of thousands of years. They live on a planet that isn't the right distance from the sun. Our planet's just the right distance from the sun, so we can be in solid physical bodies and not freeze up or burn up. All the other planets are either too close or too far away to have solid physical, solid liquid gas bodies. So they have etheric physical bodies. There's life on every planet in our solar system. That's my information. And we are especially visited by our 2 neighbors, Mars and Venus, the most. And they're in etheric physical. Well, so is their spacecraft. That's why they can be up there all the time and we don't see them. The only time we see their spacecraft is when they intentionally lower the vibration of their craft to temporarily become solid physical, and then we see them. And then if they want to disappear, they can either just fly away faster than light, or they just raise the vibration of their craft and poof, they disappear. They can do the same with their physical bodies. So we see them when they want us to see them. That's the bottom line. Well, that's a basic misunderstanding. We land a camera on Mars, it doesn't see anything. Mars is teeming with life. There's buildings all over Mars. My information is there's more people on Mars than there's 8 billion people on Mars than there is on Earth. And Mars is a smaller planet, so guess what? They're smaller people. They're about 4'8", 4'10". Tall ones might be 5 feet tall. The Martians are very small people because there's so many of them on this little planet, but they're there. It's just that our cameras don't have etheric vision. Once we understand, now scientists have discovered it, Keith. They call it dark matter. They've said, gee, it seems like this thing called dark matter is everywhere in cosmos. Yes, it is. It's etheric physical life. That's all cosmos is life. I think it's great stuff.
Yes, absolutely. And people says there's no life on that planet. Life is what spins the planet.
Absolutely.
888-919-2355. 888-919-2355. It's the number you dial to get on the air with myself and Mr. Dick Larson, my phenomenal guest, and we're talking about Maitreya, the great world teacher. And heads up, chat room, I did some research. I have a link I'm about to send you now about the supposed reappearance of Maitreya in Nairobi. Is it right? I think. But my point is, I'm going to be dropping pictures of the manifestation of Maitreya throughout the world in the chat room, so you can have something to look at, so we can make this a multimedia event. Mr. Dick Larson, let me ask you about though I summarized it at the beginning of the interview, who Maitreya is. Give me, in short, if you would, the world teacher, and why has he come?
Sure. First of all, the general understanding of evolution, every kingdom feeds the kingdom above it. The mineral kingdom feeds the plant kingdom. The plant kingdom feeds the animal kingdom. The animal kingdom feeds the human kingdom. We owe our physical bodies to the animal kingdom. And then the human kingdom feeds the spiritual kingdom. There is a spiritual kingdom. It's real, and it exists on our planet and every other planet in our solar system. And there are members, there are beings who inhabit this spiritual kingdom. To be exact, there are 63 great spiritual beings. We call them masters of the wisdom, because they're masters over themselves, not masters over us. They're masters over themselves and the laws of physical planet Earth. They're not subject to gravity, for example. So they're the masters of wisdom. They're the part of the spiritual kingdom, and they are people who have gone through Earth evolution ahead of us. People like Jesus, Mary, the mother of Jesus, Buddha, Krishna, Confucius, all these great beings.
Many.
Oh, yeah, many. And they've gone through evolution ahead of us, and 63 of them, you can go on different paths when you enter the spiritual kingdom. 63 of them, thank goodness, have decided to hang around planet Earth and be the inspiration for humanity behind the scenes over the eons. They have inspired the great developments of humanity. Well, this kingdom, the spiritual kingdom, has a leader. And the leader of that spiritual kingdom is Maitreya, the one whose personal name is Maitreya. He prefers to be called the teacher or the world teacher. That's his position in the spiritual kingdom. But they don't have egos. None of them care, who's got what responsibilities, and they all share different responsibilities for planet Earth and for the evolution and development of humanity. Maitreya is their leader. He is also in a position, and it's a position called the Christ. He is the Christ. What does that mean? It means he's the one of the spiritual kingdom for planet Earth who can embody the love of God in him and disperse it to the planet.
Let me ask you this, Dick. I would like to create an image, and I'm asking you for your support or your argument.
Sure.
Could we liken Maitreya's hierarchy position, and if we can see God as the whole hand, we always see ourselves. If you look at your hand now, it's easy to see that we're individuals because we're looking at the space between the individual fingers, and each finger is a person. And God would be the whole hand. Would Christ consciousness, Maitreya, represent the knuckle where individuality and whole consciousness join? So in other words, it's the first expression of God as an individual. Would that be true?
He is the first, and I'll tell you why. Because he and the Buddha, their brothers, they went through evolution quicker and faster and ahead of everybody else. He is the first to join the spiritual kingdom from the planet Earth, and he is the last to hang around. So he is the first and the last, the Alpha and the Omega. And you're absolutely right. Now, the age-old way that the masters have taught is that they get one of their great disciples who is willing to be born as a human and to pass on the teachings of the great whichever teacher it is. And the teacher overshadows them, and what that means is that the teacher's consciousness, the master's consciousness, is in the human being, in their mind, and they give out their teaching through that human being. That's the age-old way. For example, Prince Gautama. Prince Gautama volunteered to come and give out the Buddha's teachings, and when he reached a certain age, he was overshadowed by the Buddha, and Prince Gautama gave out the Buddha's teachings and became known as Gautama Buddha. Jesus, similarly, great disciple of Maitreya, volunteered to be born, and at age 30, after the baptism, was overshadowed by the Christ, Maitreya, the world teacher. And for the 3 years until his crucifixion, he gave out the teachings of the Christ. So Jesus became known as Jesus the Christ. And that's the age-old way the masters have done their teachings. For the first time in the history of the planet, the teacher is coming himself. Maitreya is in a physical body that he made. It's indestructible. And he's living on the outskirts of London right now, waiting for the right time to come forward to humanity on all of the satellite hookup by television and radio. And once he does that, he will walk among us and make suggestions. He's a teacher. He's not going to make us do anything or force anything to happen. He's not here to start a new religion, none of that. He comes as a teacher to make suggestions, and he'll be with us for the next 2,000 years. Now, this is the prophecy part of it that people have trouble wrapping their brain around. And as a Christian, this whole Christ thing really bothered me for a while. And I would suggest to any Christian listening in, just ignore that part of it and just follow Jesus, because he's back too. Jesus is in a physical body, my information is, and he's living outside of Rome. The Pope knows he's here, and a couple cardinals around the Pope know he's here. They've been asked not to say anything, because if the Pope says Jesus is here, every Roman Catholic and probably most Christians in the world will believe it. Well, that's an infringement of free will, and our free will is sacred. The masters will never infringe our free will, force us to do anything. So he's keeping his mouth shut about Jesus being back. Jesus' job, once Maitreya comes forward first, then he'll introduce some of the other masters. There are 14 masters on the planet right now in physical bodies. Then he will introduce Jesus. You'll see Maitreya and Jesus standing side by side on television. He will say, "This is my great friend, the Master Jesus," and Jesus will say, "This is my great friend, the world teacher Maitreya." Jesus' job, as I understand it, there'll be no more popes. This is the last pope. Jesus will take his rightful place at St. Peter's throne at the head of the Christian church worldwide, and his job is to get the Christian church, the Roman Catholic Church, the largest religion in the world, to get it back on track. That's his job. It's a big job. But Jesus is here too. So my suggestion to Christians is just ignore Maitreya and follow Jesus, because you're going to see him soon.
We are at the bottom of the hour. Boy, time flies when you're having a blast. Would you give out your contact information so our listening audience can find more about you and what you're doing, sir?
Love to. Thank you, Keith. There are two websites that you can go to. The first one is the main one. That's www.share, S-H-A-R-E, dash, that's a hyphen, INTL, which is the abbreviation for international. Don't put so it's share-intl.org, not .com, .org. Share-intl.org. All kinds of videos, pictures of miracles, pictures of UFOs. The whole story is on there. It's kind of an old format. We're updating it, but don't let that fool you. There's tons of information in there. The other website is www.transmissionmeditation, all written out, transmissionmeditation.org. That's a new meditation. It's a group meditation. It's done free of charge around the world. A group is 3 people, and you can learn how to do it, and you can start your own group in your own home. I have a group in my home. We meet once a week, and Benjamin Krem was asked to start, by his master, was asked to start transmission meditation as a new world service. It combines karma yoga and laya yoga, which is the yoga of service and the yoga service to the world and the yoga of personal spiritual growth. And that's what you do. You serve the world by doing transmission meditation once or twice a week. Those are the two main websites, Keith. Thank you.
You are welcome, sir. The biggest question in the batch, I kind of know it has a lot of hype around it. Tell me about the Antichrist from your information.
Oh, I'm so glad you asked. There's a lot of misunderstanding about the Antichrist, and there's a lot of fear about the Antichrist. And if I can, I'd like to relieve some of that fear with some information. The information that I have, according to the Ageless Wisdom, and it makes sense to me or I wouldn't be talking about it, is that the Antichrist is not a person, it's an energy. The Antichrist is an energy that is released periodically to make a change, and I'll tell you how it did that. The Beast 666, a lot of misunderstanding about what the Beast 666 is. Well, Nero, back in Jesus' time, Nero was the emperor of Rome, and the Antichrist energy was released through Nero. And if you'll recall, Nero was incredibly evil. He persecuted tons of Christians and other people, and he single-handedly destroyed the Roman Empire. There's an old saying, Nero fiddled while Rome burned. It's really true. He did that. Well, the Antichrist energy is released to break down the old and pave the way for the new. And it did that. He was the Beast 666. He destroyed the Roman Empire and paved the way for Christendom. And if you look in a good study Bible, you mentioned that I taught adult Bible study for many years. If you look in a good study Bible, I have two of them, and they have the same footnote in both of them, where it says the Beast 666 in St. John's book of Revelation. If you look at the footnote, numerology was very big back then. And it will say 666 are the total numbers in the name Caesar Nero. And he was the Beast 666. So the Beast 666 has come and gone. 2,000 years later, it was released again. And if everybody thinks about it, they'll know who the Antichrist was. It was Hitler. It was released through Hitler, a couple Italian generals, Mussolini, and a couple of the Japanese generals. And the Antichrist energy was released through Hitler. He did everything that St. John's book of Revelation says the Antichrist is going to do. He was incredibly evil. He fooled millions of people for decades into thinking that he was their great leader and going to create this wonderful new perfect civilization. Killed millions and millions of people. Terribly evil guy, and we defeated him. The forces of light defeated the Antichrist in World War II, set the world free, and so the Antichrist for our time has come and gone. That's the good news. It will be released once again, I'm told, by the Ageless Wisdom in about 3,000 years. That battle will be fought on the mental levels, not on the physical level, on the mental levels, and that will be the last time it will be released. It will have served its purpose. But through Hitler, it broke down the old. The intention was to break down the old aggressiveness and pave the way for the world teacher. It was just at the end of World War II that Maitreya, the world teacher, declared, "I am coming soon." And his original intention, he made his body and flew to London in 1977, July 19th, 1977. If you think about it, that's 777, July 77. The 1 and the 9, the Alpha and the Omega, the first and the last. There's tremendous symbology in everything the masters do. That's when he appeared in London in his physical body. He's been working since then to come forward at the right time when the most people will be prepared to receive his information and think about whether or not they want to act on it. We all have individual freedom and individual choice. And my information now is, Keith, that he will be coming forward within the next year and a half. That his day, what he calls his day of declaration, when he can come forward and declare who he is without infringing humanity's free will be in less than a year and a half. So this is going to happen in our lifetime. If you're healthy at all, you're going to see this. You're going to experience. It's going to be the greatest party the planet has ever had. Let me tell you.
Party like it's 1999.
Yeah, when we get a minute, I'll tell your listeners the 3 ways that they'll be able to recognize him when he comes.
That was my next question, because we're all now hyper aware. We're aware of all the fraudulent people-ish. We're beginning to understand the pattern of what those people like, regardless whether they're charismatic or not. We're starting to feel the vibration of those who are just full of malarkey. That being said, how do we honestly recognize the great world teacher? I've said in my work, The Divine Principle, my bestseller, the way to recognize recognize any world teacher is they always teach unconditional love, and they will always bring you to their equality. They will never teach that they are God above you. Your thoughts about how do we recognize the great world teacher?
Keith, you're spot on. I agree with every single word you said. My information is exactly what you said. He's going to say, I'm your brother. I'm your brother. I walked on the planet just like you. I went through everything, and he did. I went through everything you've gone through. I've killed people. I've been killed. I've been tortured. I've been starved. I've been sad. I've been disappointed. I've gone through everything you've gone through. That's why I understand you. And that's why they don't criticize us. The masters don't judge us. They just love us. They understand us completely because they were us. They've gone through everything we could ever go through, and that's how he is going to talk when he comes forward. So how will people recognize him? By the way, Benjamin Creme has people knocking on his door all the time saying that they're Maitreya. So I mean, they're out there in the thousands. They knock on his door. He told me. I've talked to Benjamin Creme a lot. And he told me, he said, Dick, they knock on my door and they say, hi, I just wanted, Mr. Creme, I want to thank you so much for all your work in announcing my arrival. And I just wanted to make sure that you had a chance to meet me because we haven't met yet. And just for you to know that I'm here and that I'm hard at where I'm getting ready to go to work. They come to his door. Yeah, in London. And there are many pretenders. Not the last one, about third from the last lecture that Benjamin Creme gave in LA, the lecture in the same hotel, they knew that we were going to be there. The lecture in the same hotel in the room next door was a man who called himself Maitreya and dressed in white. And he was lecturing in the room next door. So these pretenders are everywhere. Here's how you're going to know it's him. When you see him on TV, there'll be an announcement that there's going to be a huge press conference. He's been interviewing on networks around the world as an ordinary man. He started this a couple of years ago. As an ordinary man, waiting for the media representing humanity and for humanity ourselves to say, wait a minute, you know way too much to be an ordinary person. Who are you really? Who are you really? He's been interviewing in countries all around the world. He interviewed in Mexico. He did 14 interviews, 41 interviews on Brazilian network television, 51 interviews on Russian network television, 34 in China. He's interviewed in Japan, Vietnam, Malaysia, India, Indonesia. All of these countries, he's been on network television as an ordinary person talking about women's rights, talking about love, talking about the brotherhood of humanity, talking about justice, and so on.
Have you seen any of those interviews?
No. And he interviewed in the U.S. He had 29 interviews in the U.S. All of them, he was part of a panel. It wasn't as an individual. It was part of a panel. I never saw one of them. Anyway, the time is coming very soon when they're going to say, wait a minute, who are you really? That sets him free to have what he calls his day of declaration, when he will declare that he is the world teacher. He's here to make suggestions to help us get this world back on track, to help us clean up the mess we've made if we want to follow his suggestions. And so you will hear this announcement of a huge worldwide press conference. That's what the satellites are up there. They're not up there for World Cup soccer. They're up there for this event. And you will see his face on TV. This is the first way you can be sure it's him. You'll see his face on TV, but his lips won't move. You'll hear his words telepathically in your head in whatever your native language is. That's the first way you'll know it's him. It'll be a very strange experience. You'll be watching him and you'll be listening to him, but he's not saying anything. And you'll be, are you hearing him? Because I'm hearing him, but he's not talking. It'll be one of those. That's the first way you'll know it's him, telepathic communication. The second way you'll know it's him is, as I said, he embodies the love of God. While he's speaking for 35, 45, 55 minutes, nobody knows how long it'll be. While he's speaking to humanity, we will feel the love of God in our heart like we have never felt it before. There'll be a lot of people crying. I'll probably be one of them. Trust God's love in your heart. The Antichrist can't do that if you're afraid of that, Antichrist. The third way you'll know it's him is that after he's done speaking, there will be press reports from around the world that while he was speaking, hundreds of thousands of people were miraculously healed while he was speaking. And in these three ways, you'll know that this is the world teacher come to make suggestions and help us with our free will, help us get back on track if we want to. Keith, he said, there was a point where he said there were 1.2 billion people ready to respond. The latest information I have from Benjamin Creme is that there are now Benjamin Creme has a master that he's in contact with telepathically. At 24 hours a day, he can make contact with this master. The latest information I have is that there are 1.8 billion people on the planet ready to respond when he comes forward. And that's way more than a critical mass. That's more than is needed to start turning this planet around. And I would suggest to our listeners, that's why you're on the planet. You're on the planet. I don't want to make you feel obligated. I'm just saying my information is.
I don't mean to interrupt. I don't mean to interrupt you, Mr. Larson. I don't think it's necessarily an obligation. And there might be a tone of some of that in there, but I think it's more should be considered duty.
It's a call to action.
It's a duty. I think that's why we're here. Absolutely.
Yeah. And so it's our job to turn this planet around, to start the whole, but just like my parents were on this planet to defeat the Antichrist. That was their job. Women went to work in factories. I mean, everybody gave everything they had, and they got the job done. I mean, it was an incredible job, huge job, and they did it. That's why they were here, to set the world free so that the world teacher and the other masters, there's going to be over 40 masters walking amongst us for the next 2,000 years. There'll be a master in every aspect of life: education, healthcare, government, food distribution, every housing. There'll be the arts. There'll be a master in every department of life making suggestions. It's going to be an unbelievable time. We are so lucky to be alive right now, to be part of this. Sure, it's a responsibility, but it's also a tremendous privilege and honor to be trusted, which is what we're being. We're being trusted to turn the world around, to follow his suggestions and the suggestion of his other teachers, Jesus and the others, and turn this planet around. Some of it will happen very fast. I'm told, Keith, that within 2 years, there'll be no more starvation. I mean, it'll happen that fast. There are people working behind the scenes now with plans for how to distribute the food, with plans for how to put down these dictators that pop up. The United Nations is going to become a key part of the world. There's not going to be a world government. Every nation has its own personality, and those personalities are needed to make up the whole, just like the human race. We all have our own personality, and those personalities are needed to make up the whole. That's the symbiosis. That's the group work that's ahead of us. As a matter of fact, Benjamin Creme's master said that even the president of the United States will no longer be one person. It will be a panel of wise people. All the Aquarian work that needs to get done will get done through groups, not through individuals. The day of the powerful individual is over.
I love that. Absolutely love that.
Isn't that wonderful?
It's beautiful. Let me ask you, Mr. Larson, what more can we do to help in the transformation of our beautiful world?
Well, take part. March in the streets. Send emails and texts and Twitter and Facebook. Get on there and talk about what we need to change, what needs to be changed. Find ways to serve. People say, "Oh, I wish I knew how God wanted me to serve." There is no one way. There's thousands.
Just get out there and help other people.
Just pick one you want. I have 3 charities I donate to. I don't have much money, so I don't donate much, but I donate when I can. I give, $10 here, $10 there. Money is a spiritual tool if used properly. Money's not evil. Money's neutral. It's what you do with it that makes it a spiritual tool or not. There's many, many ways to serve. Pick an area that your heart responds to and just serve. The Ageless Wisdom says that our purposes on the planet are a couple. Number one, to serve humanity. And in serving humanity, we serve God. We serve the spiritual kingdom. The second purpose in being on the planet is to learn and grow. That's why we have free will. We're not expected to make the right decision every time, but we're expected to learn from every decision. We can learn from a poor decision. We can learn from a wise decision. The goal isn't to choose right all the time. The goal is to always learn from our choices. That's why we have free will, so we can learn and grow. What's the royal road to learning and growing? Prayer and meditation. Prayer and meditation, prayer and meditation. Just do a simple little 15-minute personal meditation every day. Focus at the Ajna center between your eyebrows, at the middle of your head, and just focus there. Think Om when your mind wanders, which it will. Don't worry about it. Americans aren't very good at focusing. The Japanese are taught to focus very early on, and they can, in a 15-minute meditation, they can be focused 13 or 14 minutes. Americans are focused on average. They've done studies on average 3.5 minutes out of 15.
And let you say that about the Japanese.
Yeah.
The people in the Orient, when they look at a picture, they do not see the picture the same way that we do. We look at the foreground. They look at the background, because any musician will tell you, if you have music without empty space, all you have is one long note. So it's the empty space. Chinese philosophy says it's the space between the bars that holds the tiger. So their ability to see what we don't see is completely different.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. I'm a trumpeter, so I can appreciate it. Yeah, that's beautiful. I love it. So what we can do? Well, we can do transmission meditation. Start a group in your home. Most people work their way up to where they can meditate for an hour as a group. And a group is 3 or more. And you just get 3 friends to try it. Just try it. Just try a little 15-minute meditation. Benjamin Graham has a book that he's written on transmission meditation, available on Amazon. I'm not here to sell books, but it's available. Or it's online. Go to transmissionmeditation.org. His book is free online at that website. And just start your own group and try it for a while. Meditation sneaks up on you. Other people are going to notice the change before you do. It's just the way it works. But it's part of the royal road to spiritual growth is meditation. It's very powerful. Transmission meditation is one of the most powerful in the world. And I'll tell you why. In normal meditation, we're basically downloading spiritual energy from our soul. The Ageless Wisdom says, picture your soul as a multi-pointed white light about 6 inches above the top of your head, connected to your heart, to your mind and your heart by golden threads. Isn't that beautiful? Well, when we meditate personally, we basically download spiritual energy from our soul. When you're doing transmission meditation, the masters are sending their energy through your chakras, through the chakras of the group, and then out into the world. You don't send it anywhere because you don't know what it's needed. You don't know what the energy is. It might be the energy of equilibrium or the energy of peace or the energy of whatever that they send out into the world to create world change and world evolution. They're using the groups to change the world. That's why it's service to the world. Do transmission meditation. Benjamin Graham said 1 year of transmission meditation is equal in spiritual growth to about 10 to 15 years of any other meditation. Now that's powerful.
That's
why?
juicy.
Because it's coming from the masters. That's why. This is powerful stuff. And they know just how much each person can handle without burning out their nerve center or, hurting them. So they know exactly. They're master scientists. They know exactly.
So, Dick, let me ask you, how do the world stock markets, what the world teacher calls, let's say, the gambling casinos and the global economy, figure into the current happenings that are going on?
You have done your homework, Keith. Very good. Yeah. Maitreya calls the stock market the gambling casinos of the world, not because of what little people like you and I do with the stock market, but because there are just a few people in the world, very wealthy people, who control the stock market and manipulate it like slot machines to make profit, and their greed basically does it. The stock market as it exists now has no place in the life of humanity, according to the masters, according to Maitreya, the world teacher, and other masters. It has no place. The stock market is basically going to collapse, completely collapse. And
that is exactly that. I don't mean to interrupt. That is exactly what my work in the divine principle, my conversations with God for 8 years said. If you look to Japan and see what's happened to Japan,
Yep.
Don't think that America is far off.
It's not. It's just bouncing all over the place now, but it's not necessary. It's actually harmful, and it has no place in future society. The only thing that will be left of the stock market is like commodities and things like that. Hogs and eggs and grain futures and things like that. That's about it. Basically, what's going to replace it is through an agency, probably like the United Nations. Every country produces excess of things it needs. Other countries need that excess. So what's going to happen, Keith, is that countries will be asked to share their excess with countries who need it and get in return things that country produces in excess that we need. So when we're talking about sharing is going to save the world, and it is, it's the only thing we haven't tried. We've tried everything
all that's
else.
left. That's correct. I agree.
Yeah. Sharing is going to save the world. We're not talking about people being forced to give up their life savings and all that. That's not at all what we're talking about. We're not talking about communism at all. We're talking about basically a social democracy where the countries share internationally so that every country has the needs of its people met. Maybe not everything everybody wants, but certainly everybody's going to be really comfortable. And when that happens, it's going to establish justice in the world. Right now, we need justice and we need freedom. America has lots of freedom and not much justice. Try going to court without any money. See how successful you are. It just doesn't work. We're short on justice. Whereas the socialist countries, they have a lot of justice, but not a lot of freedom. And what we need to do is combine the two, Maitreya says. He says the cart needs two wheels. It needs justice and it needs freedom. And that's the way the world is going to be set up. And when it's set up that way, all the need for terrorism is going to disappear because the haves and the have-nots will be on the same playing field all of a sudden. It won't be this huge gap where the poor are looking out at the wealthy across the street. It's not going to be that way anymore.
Right. I've always said that it's whenever I see a post on mainstream Facebook media, they post, for example, "God bless America." I'll always respond with "God bless the world." You don't stand to lose anything. In fact, when you connect with your allies, your life gets expanded, things become greater for you and for everybody. It's of service of all. Sadly, I'm really digging this topic. We only have a few minutes left. I would like to ask you in closing, and if you can give me the shortest, powerful answer, what is the Day of Declaration?
The Day of Declaration is a day the world has never seen before because the world teacher will come before humanity for the first time ever in a physical body and speak with humanity and walk amongst humanity afterwards. But the Day of Declaration is when he announces to the world that he is here and why he is here and who's here with him, the other masters, and will start to make suggestions. What he's going to do, he's going to give us a glimpse of the past. He's going to show us where we lost our way. He's going to do all this in your mind. He's going to give you a glimpse. You'll see it like you're watching a movie. You're going to see the past and where we've gone wrong. Then he's going to give us a glimpse of the brilliant future that we have in store, in the near future that we have in store to inspire us. And then he's going to say, you now have a choice. This planet and humanity can live or it can die. Your choice will decide which. Choose wisely.
Mr. Dick Larson, I really enjoyed your presence here on Center of Light Radio. You can find this phenomenal guest and more about his work at www.share-international.org. I would love to invite you back, sir.
I'd love to come back. Maybe we can talk about the space people a little bit.
I like space people, and if you glean any more information about Maitreya that would make for another phenomenal broadcast, please let me know, and you're welcome back.
Keith, I'd be happy to. Thank you very much. I love being on your show.
And just heads up, I'll be sending you some information soon about this video archive of this show.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Everyone, Mr. Dick Larson here on Center of Light Radio. This man is fired up. Let me tell you, I love it. Next week on Center of Light, we have Glendiz Morales, and we will be speaking about heart-centered living. Remember, when you lay down at night, as my guest, Mr. Dick Larson, said, breathe in and out from the top of your head. Breathe that powerful Maitreya light into your being. Express it into your life and watch what happens. Always remember to ease in the bliss, and that center of light, mothership, leaves the earth into the inner planes of higher consciousness every Monday night, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Always remember that I love you. I appreciate you. I am here if anyone ever needs someone to speak with. Much love and light to you. I'm the guy next door, and I wish the best for you as you walk towards your path of absolute eternal bliss. Peace, love, and light. Good night.